Open Democracy is a George Soros-funded international organization. They put up this piece a couple days ago, and I just think it's so disgusting. But it's also just tells you how these liberal groups are trying to seize on these moments of crisis that's happening around the world. So the headline is: the coronavirus crisis shows us it's time to abolish the family. What does the pandemic tell us about the nuclear family and private household? It goes on to say that nuclear households, it seems, are where we are all intuitively expected to retreat in order to prevent widespread ill health. Quote, staying home is what is somehow self-evidently supposed to keep us well. But there are several problems with this, as anyone inclined to think about it critically, even for a moment, might figure out. Problems what one might summarize as the mystification of the couple form, the romanticization of kinship, and the sanitation of the fundamentally unsafe space that is private property. The private nuclear household genders, nationalizes, and races us. It norms us for productive work. It makes us believe we are individuals. Okay, Karl Marx, we deserve better than the family, and the time of corona is an excellent time to practice abolishing it.
The call to abolish the family is just so tragically sad. I mean, look, my view is that we were specifically and literally created for these relationships, first and foremost for a relationship with the Creator. And then, of course, secondarily, for these relationships with those we are blessed to call family, whether it's your spouse or your children.
Let me kind of give you, again, a little bit of hope, because the Christian community has gone through this before. Religious communities have faced times of plagues and persecution, and they have come together as a family, as a unit. And they have, again, it's not that they are, that God protects them from all that is wrong.
The coronavirus has returned the church to normality. The coronavirus has returned the church to normality. What did he mean by that? What he meant, as he explained, was that through the vast majority of Christian history, epidemics and plagues, seasons of unexpected social or cultural upheaval were actually normative.
And listen to this important example from Reverend Sproul about the church in Alexandria. This was in the year 250, dealing with something similar.
Gave, among others, was how the church in Alexandria, Egypt, in the year 250 responded to an epidemic that swept through the Roman Empire. We believe it was measles and killed almost undoubtedly millions of people. And the bishop of Alexandria, Dionysius, wrote about this experience. And he shared that Christians not only cared for one another, but they cared for non-Christians. And so many of the very best leaders of the church died in their care for one another, and they died in their care for those outside the church. And what actually happened was, despite those severe losses to the church, at the end of the epidemic, Christianity was in a stronger position and actually grew as a result, precisely because of the way Christians loved one another and the way Christians loved the world.
It is those bonds that make this life worth something beyond ourselves. I mean, without those, Jordan, our purpose on this earth is just so catastrophically small.
But this message on fear, to kind of sum up and contrast this with this just horrendous liberal left-wing idea of abolishing the family unit as we know it, and just returning to this form of individualism and abolishing that.
In the midst of disease, in the midst of death and suffering, we belong to God. And so I was struck in returning us to Psalm 91 that it says in verse 5 and 6, "You shall not be afraid of any terror by night, nor of the arrow that flies by day, of the plague that stalks in the darkness." What I note here is it does not say you shall be freed from any terror or arrow or the plague that stalks in the darkness, but that we will be freed from fear of those things.
We can be freed from fear of those things. It doesn't mean, again, that there won't be those arrows, that there won't be the plague, that we don't need to use our minds and logic and reason to battle it, to do what's right and smart. but that you can be freed of fear.
The hope that we have is not one that is rooted in this physical body. And I mean, I think that's what's so missed in this article here. And the passage of Scripture, I love the one you played, but the one that always speaks to me in a moment like this comes out of Isaiah 43, where God tells Isaiah why we were created. He says, the people that I formed for myself. Jordan, the reason that we're here is something so much larger.
Where is this idea of abolishing the family coming from? Major international organizations are seizing on this COVID-19 moment. These are George Soros-backed, Ford Foundation-backed organizations, big organizations with hundreds of millions of dollars in resources, putting out the information to abolish the family.